John, she put the facts on the table, and those are the facts that the American people are not prepared to deal with. What does he accomplish on climate change?
Well, there are a lot of other people that aren't prepared to deal with caps on carbon emissions either, notably countries like China and India. And the president himself comes up here in real difficulty in American political terms because the cap and trade bill that passed the House of Representatives is dead on arrival in the Senate. So the Europeans, who, by the way, are able to project meeting some of these standards because of their long-time reliance on nuclear power, are, I think, more disappointed in the president than they expected to be. And I think he's going to be lucky to get out of tomorrow's summit with simply remaining where he is in the international arena.
Brett, he's chosen to meet with a couple of people. I believe he's going to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister. He's also going to meet with Mahmoud Abbas. What does he hope to accomplish there? Why select those two leaders to meet with specifically?
Well, this administration, like previous administrations, has made a big emphasis in trying to resolve the Mideast problem. And the issue at stake here is that you have two governments in the Palestinian and the Israeli government there that really fundamentally disagree on some of the basic issues. And we haven't seen a breakthrough on that, despite the fact that the administration has been pushing hard on it. And so I don't expect a great deal of movement, a great deal of progress at this meeting, and it's just an illustration of how difficult that particular problem is.
Why them? Why now, John?
This is the very epitome of photo-op diplomacy. The president wanted to come into this meeting with an agreement by Prime Minister Netanyahu to freeze Israeli settlements in the West Bank. He didn't get it. He's going to have the meeting anyway. It will result in a weakening of Mahmoud Abbas, the only moderate Palestinian they can talk to. It'll be a short-term plus for the president to get the three of them together, but long-term it puts him in a worse position. The big winner in this meeting is Benjamin Netanyahu, which is not at all what President Obama had in mind. It would be better not to have this meeting, in my view, from the president's own perspective.
What does the president get out of sanctions on Iran? Anything?
Zero. I don't think there's any deal with Russia on the cancellation of the missile defense bases in Poland and the Czech Republic. The new system that's put in place, by the way, if it's put in place, will defend Europe, not the United States. That's what the Polish and Czech sites were about. What the Russians really objected to was not missile defense. They know it's not aimed at them. They were objecting to an American presence in what they considered their sphere of influence. And I think they've already made it clear. Prime Minister Putin over the weekend said, well, we're very happy they've canceled that missile defense program. Now they should let Russia into the World Trade Organization. They should cancel Cold War-era restrictions on technology. This is the way the Russians negotiate. They pocket one concession and then ask for the next one.
You know, Roni, you're smiling. This is... It's hard to make heads or tails of all this because it feels like we're losing some control here, to say the least. But in the middle of this, we're talking about regulation. And one of the top topics of conversation at the G20 in Pittsburgh is going to be executive pay.
I think when you and I step back, Alexis, I'm all about the government leaving us alone. I would prefer, and I'm someone who's constantly preaching less regulation. Why in the world do they want to get involved with anyone's compensation or anyone's business? I always step back and say, we, the people, can solve those problems. We should be the ones in this capitalistic world that we live in to solve those financial problems, those economy of scales problems. One issue that you're not discussing, Alexis, and I have to bring it up, is the revenue stream and the domino effect. Just one quick point on it. We know that if companies have a cap and trade system, revenue is going to suffer. Less jobs, lower wages, companies are leaving, and I just want to make sure we address, we only collected, what, $1.27 trillion in revenue, and our revenue streams, as far as the IRS are concerned, are at the lowest levels imaginable. So I just feel like the timing of this, Alexis, with the Health Care Reform Act and everything else going on, it's too much for the average American to digest. Had to throw that tax point in on you.
All right, guys, before we wrap up here, John and Brett, G20 later this week. What does this president need to accomplish? If we're sitting here in the Sunday talk shows or having their discussions next Sunday, what does he need to do, John?
Well, I think he's in real trouble. What he had intended to do was show worldwide agreement with the priorities, both on recovery from the economic crisis and on the environmental issue. But I think, in fact, these meetings will highlight continuing disagreement and perhaps actually greater divergence among the countries represented. So what seemed like a good idea at the time in terms of putting the president in the most favorable light, I think could come out with some negative consequences for him.
Brett?
I agree. I think that the plan was to show President Obama as a leader of the world, of someone who's going to show the rest of the world exactly what our agenda is and have them step in the line behind us to address all these different problems. In reality, what we're seeing is the president going to go to the United Nations, going to go to the G20, and not a great deal of consensus result, and very little in terms of substantive action and substantive steps in addressing any of these problems.
All right, well, we will leave it there. Ambassador Bolton, thank you very much. Roni and Brett, we appreciate